Welcome, Frank Lloyd, to the Schmid Talk. Frank, behind us are 4 days of recording of your favorite pieces in my Mindelzell. So far, did you enjoy this?
It's been a great experience. It's been a lot of fun. We're still not finished, but we are getting towards the end now. It's been also a big challenge because it's very hard recording in an atmosphere which is not like a performance. In a performance, many of these pieces as encores are over very quickly. But to spend so long, maybe 1 or 2 hours on every single piece is hard to keep the spontaneity of the piece. But it's been challenging, but also very rewarding that we're achieving some good results, I think.
Yes, it's something really different to play it very, very well live or to have it in every tiny note perfect. This recording, which we are making at the moment, is the start of the ring of Engelbert Schmid Horns soloists. When will this come out, the CD?
Well, it will be in the new year, that's 2016, and we're hoping that it will be early in the new year rather than later, and I will keep everybody updated as to proceedings with the cutting of the CD and the editing, and so everybody will know in good time when it's being released.
Yes, so we will go on and we will have a fantastic result. Let us begin with a short biography of yours.
Of course, my musical life didn't start out as a horn player. I started playing in the school on the recorder, and then I joined a school brass band as a trombone player. That being the only instrument left in the cupboard at the time. Now, this is when I was 13. I didn't start playing the horn until I joined the Royal Marines band when I was 16 years old in 1968. And then is really history from then on. I stayed in the Marines for 6 years. I came out, I went to the Royal Academy of Music under I for James. And soon after that, I got my first job in an orchestra in Scotland. And then in 1979, I moved back to London. I spent 20 years in London, 20 years in London before moving to Germany as a professor for horn at the Folkwang Hochschule, as it was called then, now called the Folkwang University of Arts in 1997. And I'm still there.
Frank, do you remember when we met first time, several times?
I think this was back in the 90s in Manchester or in Bordeaux or maybe in Japan. We remember these big workshops that we had back then. And I think we had our first introduction then. In fact, that might have been the time I played your horn, performed on your horn for the first time.
Yes, this was later. Our first meetings were in the States and in Manchester in England, of course. And I remember well, we talked and not about the horn. I don't remember about this. No, you performed as a soloist. It was so cool, so sovereign, so perfect. Everybody admired you, especially the girls.
I was younger then.
Yes, and we were in the pubs and there were the girls also, and we had some beers and yes, we had a very good time. This is what I remember as our first meetings. And then, as I remember, the first time you tried my horns really well, it was in Bordeaux. Do you remember this?
I think this was the time when, between a rehearsal and concert with the Britain Serenade, I tried some of your instruments, and I thought there was one which was so good. I think I took the instrument and I played the concert on this instrument, on the double horn.
On the gold brass double horn.
Yeah,
I remember. Britain Serenade.
Yeah.
It's almost suicide, but it went so well.
My philosophy is that if it's a great instrument and you would play it like you would normally do on the instrument you know well, if it's a good instrument, it will do it for you. It's only problems of an instrument which will make things slightly different, or the intonation thing. But if it's a very stable instrument, then you should be able to perform at the same level because the instrument will be with you.
In your opinion, is there a kind of state of art how a horn should be made today?
I think there is. With the technical possibilities that are today, I don't think there's any reason not to have an instrument made which is a state of the art, because so many things now are state of the art. It moves so quickly, and even in this area where we have instruments which have been being made for 100 years or more, but I still think there's an advancement of the technical challenges of building a very difficult acoustical instrument. And I think these days you can get a state-of-the-art instrument which makes life easier for the player, because it's the idiosyncrasies created within an instrument of this complexity makes certain notes difficult. It's ironing out these problems and making them easier, making the airflow smoother, and all these advancements which can be achieved these days with the modern technology.
Yes, I know this is impossible without the help of the computer measurements. Do you think everywhere this state of art is really recognized? How do you see the situation in Germany?
The situation in Germany is such that there's a very strong tradition of playing certain instruments in Germany, and these instruments over the years haven't developed further. Have the same model now for many years, some of them, and there could be. The tradition states that these instruments have to be played, but I still think there's room for improvement of these of some instruments where we have not moved forward in some ways in the development and the technical.
Yes, I would like to mention some technical items like velocity of the valves. It's very crucial. You show this, and this development is going on. The technique is increasing always quicker, and so the instrument must be able to do this.
Yeah, and the velocity of valves is one thing. The smoothness of the valves. Now rotary valves are always going to be heavier than piston valves in many ways, because with piston valves and instruments they work with the springs, and they can be very much lighter than ours. The rotary valves are going to be heavier, so it's very important that they have a really good fluid and light touch to them.
Yes.
The springs are always going to be rather heavy in comparison to other instruments.
This is the moving mass, the weight.
Yeah.
So I try to move this to an absolute minimum. Also, then the slower quality rotary valves don't have room to slur really well. So piston valves, they flow smoother in from one note to the other. How is your impression with the valves of the Schmid Horns?
The smoothness of playing on a Schmid horn I found always to be very beguiling in a way, that it enables one to be able to play as smooth and take the risks as you wish. Your playing is not compromised in any way through any faults of the instrument that you have to accommodate within your playing. So it allows you to play the way you want to do and express yourself, which is very important as a soloist. We don't want to be held up in any way because of any problems within the instrument, which can sometimes be the case if certain notes don't slur very easily, or the slur between notes is not, then we have to compromise our playing in a way and maybe then not play so freely as we would like to.
If the listener is listening to for instance, Bumblebee, your piece, with this incredible fast technique. If you have valves which have a lot of in between and a lot of heavy moving mass, it's impossible to play it. It's possible.
It's impossible. It's impossible to play. With fast, rapid passages, it's very important that the clarity of the notes, and the notes that they all speak clearly. And when they're only in existence for a very minute millisecond, then it's very important that they speak. Otherwise, it becomes just a mess. So that's very, very important that the velocity of the valves and the coordination and the notes speak in that very And that's down to the state-of-the-art technique which is required to enable you to do that.
Yes. Intonation. I see all around there are horns, many horns nowadays, which are in tune well enough. Of course, I wanted to improve this intonation. Of course, the octaves, fifth, the pure harmonics, they have to be in tune as well as possible, of course. But there are major thirds which naturally are low. And how do you feel? How are they on the Schmid horns?
Well, one great thing about the Schmid horn is that it enables one to play the tricky top G sharp and A as a second valve or opened 10th harmonic, which is it's great for things like Beethoven 7 and a lot of Mahler and many pieces with a high A. With a good open high A, it makes life very much easier. Now we know that there's no instrument that can be built in tune for the simple fact that the harmonic series and the combination of valves doesn't allow us to have an instrument which is perfectly in tune. So there are always compromises with intonation, but we want an instrument to be able to enable us to make the corrections, the fine corrections of intonation easily, with not a lot of work involved in making these small corrections.
Yes, it's part of horn playing to correct the 1 and 2 combination, for instance, to bring it down a little. That's nobody. Nobody can get this absolutely in tune. No instrument maker. The sound. The sound maybe in the world, in my opinion, is exaggerated. So many are just looking for the true sound. But what is your impression? Who is making the sound?
Well, we can look at an instrument and we don't hear anything. A horn does not come with a built-in sound. We produce the sound, and we are all very different. You make a different sound than I do. This is what makes it such a wonderful world. We are different, and you will get 4 people playing the same instrument. They will sound different. That's one of the wonderful things. We don't want to all sound the same. No instrument comes with a sound that you can say, that's that instrument. It just doesn't happen. I've heard horn sections many times, all playing the same instruments. They all sound different. I've heard people sitting with different instruments, playing wonderfully together and in tune and sounding the same.
Exactly.
You don't have to play the same instrument to sound the same. In some instances, quite the reverse.
Even if it sounds exactly the same, it can be very boring. I know on the recording a fantastic horn player playing a sextet, everything himself, each part. And the sound, of course, is the same. It's not as interesting as if there would be sitting 6 musicians with a little different sound.
Slightly different.
Imagine in an opera, 5 singers, 5 sopranos with exactly the same voice. What kind of opera would this be? It would be very boring.
Yeah, I think that's what makes this profession so wonderful, that people do sound different and they're offering different things. There can be many great players, and that will be this player and this will be that player, and they will both play wonderfully, but they will have their own characteristics and their own musicality, which will be interesting for them. They're not the same people and they won't sound the same. They might play the same instruments, but they won't sound the same. Yes. I don't think they should sound the same.
There is a kind of sound, very dark, thick, which maybe, in my opinion, sounds nice in a horn quartet for the 4th horn, but in the orchestra, not so easy.
In a small orchestra, it's sometimes difficult if the sound is too spread, because it tends to swamp and it tends to cover. Now, we know in Germany they like a very compact sound. It's got to have a good center. Yes. A good core to the sound, but a warm sound. It can be a warm sound, but not too heavy and not too dark.
Yes, exactly.
But it's still got to be
better
nice.
with the woodwinds and so.
Exactly, it mixes better and it doesn't dominate When you play in a small group, in a chamber orchestra, or with a woodwind quintet, it can very easily overpower if it's too wide, too big. It's got to be concentrated, in my view, so it mixes better.
Yes, it can disappear if you play too soft with a big sound, or it's too big.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You
that's
cannot
often to
hear
do
it
with
separately.
not only the horn, that's to do with the equipment as well. Mouthpiece plays an important role as well with sound and concept of sound as well. If you get a very large bore instrument, that's going to be more heavy with less center but more peripheral sound, and a deep-throated mouthpiece will spread this way as well. So it's a lot to do with the equipment you play, not just our own resonance that we produce ourselves.
Yes. On the Schmid horns, what do you think about the possibility to tune it half step higher, and also the combination B-flat, E-flat?
I found it fascinating that instruments can be built with a possibility to tune a half step lower or a half step higher, which can make various pieces far more playable for many people than they would be on a normal B-flat instrument. Because some of the keys that we have to cope with sometimes, especially in the solo repertoire, like in the Weber concertina, for instance, is fiendishly difficult to play really cleanly with clarity on a normal double instrument. Being able to retune the instrument a semitone either way makes it very much easier to finger either in F or in E flat, depending on which way you can tune it. So I think that's a wonderful invention or development of the horn to enable you to be able to do that.
Yeah. Especially in E flat, if you can finger in E flat, playing on the B natural horn makes your life easier. And even the best technically the best horn player would have more time for music using the B natural horn. Yeah. And for high horn playing, first horn playing, for many pieces in the orchestra, in the normal program for a professional horn players, the E flat, B flat, E flat combination. Do you have?
Yes, that seems. Yes, I have one myself, and it's a wonderful logical progression of F horn, B flat horn, E flat horn, is, in my view, a more logical progression than going to the F horn. And of course,
always a 2.5 step.
Yeah, and then also
Going
with the slightly longer tubing of the E flat horn, you can maintain a better quality of sound on the high horn than you can do on the F descant horn in most cases. It matches better with the sound.
What did finally convince you to become a Schmid player? What was the most crucial point?
I think the most crucial point was having an instrument that enabled me, that gave me the flexibility and the possibility to play and express myself as I want, as a soloist and as a player, and not compromise my playing in any way to accommodate problems or idiosyncrasies within the instrument. In other words, it gave me the freedom to express myself as a musician.
That's exactly my goal. I want to help, and I hope it helped you really.
Well, it certainly did help me, and I think my playing has improved more in the last few years that I've played this instrument than in any other time before.
I think there are many who would like to get a step higher in professionals in their playing, or students to become better. What should they do, in your opinion?
Actually, it comes a time when they have to choose a professional instrument to take them through their professional career. If they're at a stage, then they need to get a good instrument that's going to hold them through their profession, their professional years, and not that at some point in the future, then they would have to change again. Then they should seriously consider playing and trying all instruments, but certainly consider an Engelbert Schmid horn, and they will find by comparison how much easier in many ways and ergonomically pleasing they are to play And that was one of the very main reasons that I played myself, because ergonomically, weight and the feeling and the balance has to be right, because we're holding a heavy instrument, but the lighter they are, the easier it is on our own physique. We have to accommodate the weight of an instrument. It's unnatural in many ways, so the lighter it is, the better. Yeah.
So, the tone master in English, does it exist, this word?
The recording engineer.
A recording engineer is waiting for us. Thank you, Frank, for this interview.
Great pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for enabling us to play in this wonderful hall and make the recordings.
And enjoy music.
That's the main thing. Thanks. Thanks a lot.